Hello and welcome, everyone. Well, and welcome, Chris, to my interview. I'm Aristocracy. I'm a history streamer and a YouTuber. I talk a lot about Israel-Palestinian history and modern military history, and I just try to bring a historical perspective to modern political issues. And sometimes I play video games too. And Chris, do you want to kind of introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris Raygun. I'm an editor. I primarily a YouTuber. I do streaming. I have a YouTube channel where I talk about video games, news, current events, internet culture. I have 2 weekly podcasts, The Snark Tank and Sacred Symbols, which is kind of like PlayStation-oriented, occasional musician when the mood strikes. But yeah,
I just found out. Sorry.
What?
I just found out about the musician thing, and that made me really excited. When I was researching earlier today. Yeah. So I'm gonna bring that up later.
Oh man, yeah. Sometimes, I can't mix for shit, but I like to think I'm okay at doing that stuff. But I don't know. I've been on YouTube for a very, very long time. I've been on the platform for 14 years. I've been doing it professionally for 7. So it's weird to introduce myself because it's I don't know where to really start.
Yeah, because there's just so much.
It's been so long. Yeah, I've been on for a while.
So How did you go from I've been a viewer on YouTube for just as long, but I definitely I'm a totally new content creator. So how did you go from being a viewer to a content creator?
Oh man, I started making stuff pretty immediately because when I started my channel back in 2007. And I was 13 or 14. I was super young, and back then YouTube was more of I feel back then YouTube was more of a social media site than it is now. I feel now it's obviously it's more content driven and more there's a lot of companies and here's the new YouTube Red show or whatever. Back then it was just a bunch of people making for their friends basically, and that's kind of what I started doing. I would do this show that I can't even remember the context of it now, back then, and my friends would be on it and we would post it and we would share it with each other, and pretty much all my friends had YouTube channels where they were making stuff, and slowly they just sort of stopped, and I was the only one who was I kind of like this. I'll keep doing this. Maybe it'll work out. I had no intentions or expectations that it would, but I figured as long as I don't stop, something must happen,
Was there a moment when you started to realize, I could maybe make a job out of this?
It wasn't a moment so much as it was I think in 2014 I had amassed 800 subscribers over the course of however many years since 2007, doing it inconsistently. I would just post nonsense, and occasionally I would post songs and some covers of music, and that was most of it for a while. And I was going through a pretty rough time around that time, and I was just oh man, I need to distract myself. I can't just sit and mope around. So I was I got 800 subscribers. Maybe I could do something with this. And the next year I just took it super seriously, and then it blew from 1,000 to 5,000 to 30,000 to 50 to 100, and it was really quick. But yeah, I don't know if there was really a moment where I thought it could become a job. I just thought if I amass 800 people, that's a pretty huge amount of people. Maybe I could do more, and I just did. It was kind of surprising to me.
When you started growing that quickly, was it was a part of you, were you primarily excited about that growth, or was it also kind of scary?
No, it was exciting. It was cool. I think anything that's exciting is a little bit scary.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially because I was always more of a behind the scenes kind of person. I'm an editor mostly, and the only reason I even did YouTube stuff with me on camera was just because it's I needed footage to edit. So I'm not naturally an on-camera person. Like it's not something that like comes super natural to me.
Really?
Yeah,
Because
no.
we were just watching
It's
one of your videos, and you just seem so like charismatic and totally natural, like in front of the camera. So, were you like preparing like for 3 hours before you make one of those videos or something?
it takes a while for me to get. I don't want to say in character because I'm not an actor or anything, but like it takes a while for me to get into a zone where I'm like kind of comfortable enough that I know that I can get something out in a reasonable amount of time. Because
Yeah.
like there's sometimes it's like I have to be like in the right headspace to make anything really,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm mostly like kind of like reserved and really calm, but nobody wants to see that in like a YouTube video. They
Yeah.
want kind of bombastic energy, and I don't always have that energy, so I kind of have to wait until I have that, or until something makes me passionate enough to just sort of like be able to launch into it right away. But it takes prep. Like it does not, it's not natural to me. I'm not that kind of person.
Well, yeah,
Usually.
especially for me, like
Yeah.
starting with streaming and then moving to YouTube. I literally I just edit my streams on YouTube, and the idea of just making a YouTube video like from nothing seems like the
Hmm.
scariest thing in the entire world. Like I wouldn't even know where to start.
Oh, but it's so much easier. You don't have to worry about like, because right now I can't redo a take. Like if I flub something that I say, I can't just like say it again because I'll look like an insane person because we're live. But like when I mess up a lot. Like I record. I think usually my videos are like 10 to 15 minutes, and I record for about like maybe an hour and a half because like I spend a lot of time saying the same line over and over again to get like the best possible take of every single
Hmm.
line, which is probably insane and really dumb and like a huge waste of time. But I don't know. It's just the way that I'm used to doing it because I can't like put something out that like is not as pristine as I can make it. It bothers me.
Yeah. I also find that people are just going to be much more harsh on like a YouTube video compared to a stream because people are expecting that since it's live. I think like people expect that you're gonna flub up or like make mistakes and stuff, but there's this really high standard that everyone expects for YouTube like videos, especially like once you get to be a content creator of your size. I'm sure that can be like super daunting.
Yeah, I mean I've been on the platform for a long time, so I'm pretty used to like hate comments on YouTube, but like that stuff doesn't really bother me so much as it is like people are definitely harsher on YouTube videos or pre-recorded content than they are on streams in a
Mhm.
different way. I think streamers get a lot of for like for different reasons, but people expect a level of not unprofessionality, but like an improvisational kind of style in streams that they don't expect in videos. When it's like, okay, you got 10 minutes of content for me, this better be like really tight and really good,
Yeah.
as opposed to like a stream where you just kind of put it on in the background and kind of chill for a little bit.
Yeah, I will notice that when I'll make content in my stream, it'll be taken really, really well. Then I put it on YouTube, and then like YouTube just hates it, and it's
Yeah,
super strange.
it's a huge difference in perception. I think it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting because I've only started recently streaming consistently, and it's a very different. Like I find streaming way more stressful.
No,
Like
really?
than Yeah, because like you have to be like on for like hours at a time, and like there's like people watching you like live. So if you fuck up, it's like it's there. You can't even delete it because like somebody might have clipped it already.
That's true.
It's I don't know. Like it's so it's weird. Like streaming is more stressful to me, but at the same time, I think it's easier as far as like production goes. But then at the same time, it's like YouTube is as a platform is feels worse than Twitch right now. I don't
Mhm.
know. It's a whole mixed bag. The internet's bizarre at the
Yeah.
moment.
I also think Twitch, the discoverability on YouTube is better, but on Twitch, I think it's just better for like earning a daily income. Like there's some content creators that I know that are like really successful, and they still can't make it their content like their full-time job on YouTube. Whereas like I could make it, I think within a month of streaming, I could make this my full-time job.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that seems like a really also unfair difference, probably because of the monetization issue, the ad apocalypse or whatever they call it.
Yeah, the apocalypse didn't help.
Did that
But,
hurt you a lot in particular?
oh, I wish I could remember it more specifically. I feel like an ancient person because this is like what, like 4 years ago.
Yeah,
It feels
a
like,
million
but
years ago, internet years.
yeah, especially with the last year. Jesus, last year is like
Yeah.
the last year has felt like 5 to me. But you know, channels like mine, specifically ones that are not necessarily concerned with like censoring. Like I curse a lot. It's just kind of like part of my personality. Like I wish I didn't. Part of me wishes like I could cut. I've been actively trying not to as much. Not because of like YouTube or like ad or anything. It's just more like, yeah. I grew up in New York. My family's very, you know.
Yeah. New Yorkers curse a lot for sure.
Yeah, they have a flavorful tone. Is the nice way to put it. So like it took a while for me to get that out of my vocabulary, but like I noticed like not cursing in my videos feels like inauthentic to me. Like I feel like if I didn't, I feel like if I didn't, people would notice. They'd be like, what's up with him? What's he doing? What's going on?" So my videos have always been like dinged for like, here you said this word, you said that word, and it's like it's really inconsistent. And that's the biggest problem with YouTube, is that it's like there's no real consistent framework, because the last swath like 20 videos I've uploaded, I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of curses in all of them, but none of them have been dinged. And it's like, okay, I don't know what to do then. I don't know what the rules are if now this doesn't matter. Like it's just confusing.
Yeah, I wish they would just be more transparent about the words and stuff, and I don't know, whatever is in the algorithm, because it's very frustrating. Like the shit that gets demonetized is very strange.
Yeah, it's a confusing place.
You mentioned earlier when we were chatting, that when you kind of started uploading videos in like 2013, 2014, that you were kind of going through like a hard time, and it was like a good distraction. Could you talk about like what you were going through? Like, and also if I ever ask you anything that you're uncomfortable talking about, you can always be like, oh, let's just move on to the next question.
No, I'm totally fine. I'm a pretty transparent person. I like to think anyway. Yeah, no, I think 2014, I was seeing somebody, and it was like really, really, really great, and then it just sort of ends out of nowhere. It was a really rough breakup period for me. I was like, oh man, I gotta find something to distract myself with. And that's like when I turned to the channel, I was like, all right, I'm not gonna think about this, and I'll just focus on making stuff. And it wasn't even like a bad breakup or anything. It wasn't like, it wasn't like there was no anger there. It was literally just things didn't work out, and it was just really depressing, because it was the first time that I'd felt like really strongly about anything like that. So, and it was only my third real relationship. So
how
it
old
was
were
very
you at the time?
Oh, man, I'm 27 now. It was 2014.
The math is hard.
How old was I? I was like 21, I think. Man, why the fuck can't I do this simple ass math? Was I 19? There's no way. That seems too early. Whatever 24, you guys can do the math.
But it
I
sounds
forget my life sometimes.
So it sounds like this was like probably like your first serious adult relationship, right?
Yeah. And that was pretty rough. It's not like the worst thing to happen, but at the time it felt pretty devastating, especially because I was working such a shitty job. Like I was working at Sears for like $7.25 an hour.
Sears,
I had to go in at like
sucks.
I had to go in at like I had to leave my house at like 5:30 in the morning, and then like get there at 6 a.m. to like put fucking sales tickets on all the things that were on sale, and like and they would work me like for 39 hours exactly, so they didn't have to pay me like full time. It was really it just wasn't fun, that period of time.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
But yeah.
So
it was, it wasn't fun.
Yeah, why did you end up deciding to work at Sears? Was just like the only option that you could get at the time?
I had no. It was the only option. I had a friend who was working there who put in a good word for me, and that was pretty much the only reason I got that job. Because like where I lived in New York was a pretty small town. Like there's only so many places. Like once you've applied to everywhere and then you don't hear back, it's just like, I guess I'm fucked. You know, like I don't know what to do here. Like I'm not gonna drive to like 3 cities over and like spend more on gas than I would make at the. You know what I mean? So like it just became this thing where it was just the only thing that I could take. So I took it, and you know it wasn't. It's not working at Sears is never going to be something that you want to do. You know.
I didn't know. You know, when I was a kid, like I grew up Jewish, right? So whenever my parents always told me I wasn't allowed to like have a Christmas tree or look at Christmas, and I remember Sears always having these beautiful kind of Christmas decorations during the winter. So you know, I feel like so I guess like in my head, I thought it would be kind of like a glamorous thing, but yeah, that totally makes sense. It's not Christmas the whole year. It's Sears.
That is so fascinating that anybody would think of Sears as like glamorous, like in any context. Because I remember putting those trees up. Like I would put them up, and I would be like, "All right, here we go. I got to put these fucking things together." And they had these ridiculous instructions that like had no words to them, and it's just.
How did you guys make them all look so beautiful, though? They always like look so magical.
I'll tell you what, I was not putting any effort into that. Like any magic that a child could have experienced walking into Sears and seeing a nice Christmas tree is not. I did not
because of Chris Reagan.
It was not because of me. I put them up and I let other people handle the lights because that was my job. Like I was just like setting up displays and stuff. So like you set up this, and when it came to decorating, I'm like, I'm not gonna do this. Like I'm not gonna spend time like making something look pretty for $7.25 an hour in a fucking Sears. Like I'll put the tree up, you handle it. Like my other team, the rest of the people on my team can handle that. I was also the youngest person working there, obviously, because it's Sears. So like,
yeah.
They would have me like moving a lot of boxes and like climbing shelves that were probably really dangerous to climb.
Oh.
I don't know. It wasn't fun.
Yeah, that's really dangerous, actually.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal, you know. And now they're gone, so it's fine.
Do you feel sad when you look at like an old Sears building? A tear doesn't come to your eye?
I feel sad knowing that I worked there, not because they're gone. You know.
I used to work at EB Games, or I think like it's like GameStop in the US. I don't know if you guys have that there.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I worked there, and it was always like initially like my dream job, but working there was like the worst thing in the entire world. That's
what I heard. That's what I heard. I wanted to work there too. Like I was so excited at the premise of like I get to work around video games, and I actually like I applied for a job when I was like trying to look for a way out of Sears. I applied for a job at a GameStop. I got the job, but the week that I was supposed to go in, I was supposed to go into training like the week after, and within that week, the guy who hired me got fired for doing coke at his desk. So every decision that he made that week didn't so I just never got a call back. So I got the job at GameStop. But I never worked. So that's fun.
That's so sad though, like you weren't like I think every gamer always wants to work at GameStop. Like, it sounds like a great job, but it actually really, really sucks, I swear.
Yeah. I'm glad in retrospect that I didn't get it, because I might just hate video games now. if I had gone through some of the stuff that because my friends would tell me like crazy stories. I can't remember any of them off the top of my head, but like I remember being like, "Ooh, okay, dodged a bullet."
Yeah,
but
the one place that I really wanted to work was the Apple Store, because I always heard the Apple Store like treats you like super, super well. And I don't know if you ever applied to work at the Apple Store, but you have to go through like this entire intense process to work there. And I got through like the whole process. I don't know, like it's like being, and then when you get to like the final situation, they make you sit through something like from Clockwork Orange, like a full like cult like video. And then they make you recite shit, and it's like really creepy and weird. And that's why like Apple Store employees are really, I don't want to offend anyone, but they're like a unique group of people, right? Because you have to go through full propaganda.
That's wild. Yeah, I had no idea any of that. Like, I never bothered to look into it. Like, I think by the time I realized there were Apple stores, I I was already doing YouTube. Well, there's one in not Times Square, Grand Central. I know that, but I never walked into it.
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
Apple stores are unique, a very unique breed. I at the time I remember thinking I have to I have to hide who I really am. I have to hide that I'm like a PC gamer. I hide that I don't have like an iPhone, and I had to like really embrace like the culture and I don't know, the whole toxic like attitude. Your camera like froze for me. Are you still there? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hey,
Hey,
was that
I
me?
thought you froze, but it was totally me. So,
Oh, okay. All right. Yes, I immediately panicked. I was like, oh no, did I fuck it up?
no, yeah, it was my fault this time. But we're back. We're back.
Can you
What was the
can you
last
hear
thing
me? Okay.
Yeah, you sound great. What was the last thing
What's
that you
going
heard
on?
me? Can you not hear me?
I heard you there.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me now?
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you.
I I think Apple's coming for us. Like,
Yeah, I think so. That was really
yeah, this
that
is
was really
scary.
weird.
All right. What was the last thing you heard me say? I think I was ranting about the Apple Store. Right?
Yeah, and we should probably stop talking about the Apple Store because clearly,
Yeah, no, they're
clearly they
coming
got
for us. There's like an
yeah,
Apple,
yeah.
yeah, an Apple mob they're very mad. They probably know that, yeah, they like, we use PCs. You're a PC gamer, right? Pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, I play on everything. As I obviously have a PlayStation podcast that I do with my friend Colin Moriarty. So I focus a lot on that, but
Hmm.
I play on everything. Like I got myself. I'm on Xbox. I'm on Switch. I'm on PlayStation. I'm on PC. I'm not on like Stadia or anything like that.
You
But
don't play any mobile games?
no, I like the fact that video games are relegated to a specific like machine to me. Like
Hmm.
I get so overwhelmed with my phone sometimes because I'm just like, oh, this is the thing that keeps me in touch with everybody. It's where my banking happens. It's where like planning my day and my life happens. It's where like my notes are. It's where like my writing is sometimes. The thought of having like games on my phone in addition is just like I can't entertain that. Like I would never get anything done. I'm glad that like I have a console to do it. I'm glad I have a PC to do it. I
Yeah, no,
something
that
about
totally
mobile
makes
games
sense.
just doesn't. Yeah, and even just honestly, to just the quality of mobile games just don't really. I don't really get anything unless it's like Tetris or something. That's like perfect. That's like the best video game in the world. But
Tetris is a lot of fun.
typically I avoid installing games on my phone. I can't do it.
Yeah, I've never really had fun with mobile games. I did play the Harry Potter Hogwarts game because I'm like a sucker for anything Harry Potter.
Oh, wasn't
Um,
it the one that was like nickel and diming everybody who bought it?
yeah,
Didn't they
and
like?
at first I was like, no, this is just some like, anti Harry Potter propaganda. And then I started playing it, and yeah, like you couldn't graduate, you couldn't go to classes without sending them money. It was very upsetting.
It's it's pretty egregious. It's kind of wild. It's like a lot of mobile games are like that, just because so many of them are free to play. They have to like find some way to get money.
Yeah,
But that Raid Shadow Legends thing that everybody's like sponsored by, I
yeah.
know people who play it like actually, and I'm like,
No,
wow,
really.
that's like actually, yeah, like unironically, like the one of the Derek on our Snark Tank podcast plays it like on purpose, which is like fascinating.
Wait, I didn't even know that people actually play that game. Like I just
No, me neither.
wow. Well, if they want to sponsor me, like, let me know. Raid Shadow Legends, that would be cool. Um, but
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of get into kind of like, I guess, you mentioned that you're from New York, right? And I know that you're
Hmm.
Puerto Rican, right? Is that like,
Yes.
is that like your entire ancestry, like both your parents?
Our family tree's a little bit fragmented. My dad doesn't know exactly my dad doesn't know his dad, so like and there's no real I think we tried 23andMe or something like that, like one of those. I can't remember what the name was, and we couldn't really find anything substantial there either. But you know, Puerto Rican is not like it's not like a race, you know, like it's literally just like you're from the island, and Puerto Rico is a mix of like all sorts of things. There's like even just the Spanish there is kind of colored with a little bit of French and a little bit of like South African. Like it's a huge
South Africa.
It's kind of like a weird melting. There's a lot of like weird elements to Puerto Rican Spanish that's like very lifted from like other languages, because it was kind of like a, you know, a lot of people came there, and it was like, you know, the Spaniards came there, like Europeans came there, so it's a bit of a mix. I'm sure I've got like, I'm highly suspicious. I feel like there's like some Italian in me, but like it can't be confirmed. But as far as I know, Native American and you know, Puerto Rican, which is essentially the fucking essentially the same thing, because Native Puerto Ricans are Native Americans as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, that's true.
yeah,
I'm like super uneducated about Puerto Rico. Like I know nothing about it. I know nothing about like Middle and South America at all. And yeah, just that whole part of the United States.
That's fair. Honestly, as a Puerto Rican myself, there's a lot that I don't know the whole history of the island. I just know my heritage, and a lot of my culture comes from there. Like my my background and just the music that I grew up listening to, and like the food and you know, just the traditions. Like my grandmother would celebrate like Three Kings, which is, I'm sure, something that like is very specific, that like most people have no fucking clue what that is, I feel like. Three
Kings, it sounds fancy. I like the sound of
it. Three Kings is like right after New Year's. My grandmother would like, it's a very Catholic holiday, but like I've noticed it even with, because I used to go to Catholic school as well, and other friends of mine who weren't Hispanic had no fucking clue what the hell I was talking about when I was like, oh, I got this gift for Three Kings. Or like, what? I was like, oh, whoops. Sorry, I thought that was something we had in common.
Yeah, that sounds like my kind of holiday. I like that. It sounds really awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's a bit religious. I'm not really a Catholic person anymore, but
but you were raised Catholic, right?
Yeah, certainly.
So was the Catholic school you went to? The Catholic school you went to was it a private Catholic school?
I believe it was. I don't know if there are Catholic public schools.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong.
In Canada, we have public Catholic schools. That's why, like, in my head is.
Yeah, I'm not. I'll be totally honest. I'm not super sure. My assumption growing up was that like most Catholic schools were private. Maybe somebody in the chat can enlighten me. I genuinely have no idea. I just kind of assumed that they were all private, but there could be public Catholic schools. Honestly, like, given the people that I went to school with, I would be shocked if I went to a private school. But
well, why do you say that?
It was, you know, there's a lot of fascinating individuals that I don't know. Like, I guess you just have the assumption that like private schools are like very like upper class and very like, you know, very serious. But like I don't know, there were kids sneaking beer into the bathroom, and you know, like it was about as public school as like the public schools that I would go to later, like in high school. There was barely no difference. It was really just I had to wear a uniform. That was pretty much the only difference. But yeah, no, I was raised Catholic. My parents were Catholic, and even they were like kind of like on the. They were more like Catholic by association. Like the rest of my family's super Catholic. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's a very Hispanic household. So like, all right, we'll go to church. I could tell my dad was over it. You know, but you know, we went to church and we did all the holiday stuff, but that quickly kind of faded. You know, it was not something that stuck around for too long.
Did you have like an easy time in school? Like, is it a positive memory for you or a negative one?
It's fairly positive. You know,
that's good.
I don't recall, like, I had like bullies, of course, because, you know, people would just, you know, oh, you're short, and it's like, all right, yeah, but like that didn't really last too long. I don't remember having like a particularly negative time. I was bored. I was very bored in school.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. Like I didn't have fun like in class, but like I was very I had a tight knit group of friends that I was like very tight with, and it was fun seeing them all the time. And in the Catholic school that I went to, it was outside of the range of where the bus could pick me up. So like my dad would take me early in the morning. I would be the first one there. I'd be the last person to leave because I could only get picked up when my dad was finished with work. So like after school, I would just spend time in the Catholic school with a bunch of people. We would like bring a GameCube to school. We'd hook it up in the math room. We would play like Super Smash Brothers Melee. That's how I got introduced to like, GameCube and all these other like franchises that I had no idea, because I was a PlayStation kid.
Yeah.
So it was a very social experience. In a weird way, Catholic school after school felt more like college than college did to me. It's fucking weird.
Wait, how?
Just
like, how does
just
that
the
make
social
sense?
element. The social element of it, like in college, like you really got to focus because you're paying for everything, and you're like, I can't, sorry, I can't go out tonight. I have to make sure that I don't waste thousands of dollars on this class that I'm taking. And I took it a lot more seriously than when when you're a child. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really care that much about it. So like I would just spend time after school just chilling and doing ridiculous shit. I wish I had more complete memories of that time, because it's so fragmented and hazy.
You didn't keep like
It's
a
been
live
so long,
journal
but-
that you were uploading, complaining about your life?
I'm
are
glad
you a
YouTube didn't
teenager?
exist back then.
Yeah, thank God. I would have like the most embarrassing shit that I would have said it
Yeah.
on like Twitter and stuff.
No, for
Oh.
sure.
Do you so like your time in school was, mostly like positive. But you mentioned that you kind of, I guess, how like you went a little more hardcore when you went to university. I guess you call it college. Here in Canada we call it university. But so like so you had to pay for university like totally yourself?
Well, my parents were helping me, but it was just this notion of, it's, you just feel like more responsibility about it when like, because your parents they're not gonna not put you in school when you're like in high school, like it's more obligatory there. But like college was like this thing that, like, I don't know, I hated college, but like I also felt like a
Why do you
lot
hate it?
more responsibility about it. So I wasn't really. Towards the end, I did slack off a little bit, because I was doing film studies and stuff, and it was just like all stuff that I already knew, and I would go to class. I remember I had an editing class in college, and the first day, everybody's like, "All right, everybody, raise your hands. Like, figure out like." We were introducing ourselves in the class, and it was supposed to be like, "What experience do you have with editing?" And everybody was like, none, or like Windows Movie Maker. And then I was the only person who was like, oh yeah, fucking shit, Premiere, Avid. I've done editing in Flash as well, and it's just like I felt like an asshole,
Yeah.
because like it feels
Because you
like
were
you're
just way
showing up
ahead of
everybody.
everyone else.
Yeah, it was. I was way too ahead of it, and I was just like, I'm wasting my money here. So like towards the end, I was like, I'm getting out of this. I didn't even have to take my editing final because my teacher just knew. Like I remember being like, yeah, I remember just being like, hey, can I not take, like, I can edit. Do I really have to do this final? And he was like, nah, you're fine. Like I didn't even have to go to school for that class for the rest of the year after like the after the final was like issued.
So you didn't even
which
like
is-
learn anything useful like in college?
No,
when it
he
came
just
to
passed.
editing?
Well, I guess I learned to deal with social things a little bit better. I had like actually one of the biggest panic attacks I ever had, like in college. I had to take a public speaking class. And we were in school for like about a week. I think I had three classes a week for that specific class. And by the beginning of the second week, we had to have a speech ready. And I remember I walked up to the door on speech day, and like I stood there like frozen. And this is real. I walked away, and I never went back to the class. Like I never, I couldn't do it. Like it was so paralyzing, and especially the thought of like having chickened out, and then the thought of like going back. Like I
You just
it
couldn't
was
do
not
it.
something
Yeah.
that I was equipped to handle at the time. It was, yeah, I'm not I wasn't that person yet. I wasn't the person who was, and even today, I'm not super comfortable in front of crowds, but I'm definitely a lot more capable of it than I was back in like, 2012 or 2013 when I was taking that class.
Do you think you're more capable now just because you're more used to it, or is it because you kind of like develop tools on how to deal with those, like that anxiety?
I think I've just gotten better at dealing with anxiety without relying on medication. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've struggled with it for a long time, and at a certain point, you just have to be like, all right, I have it. I know the signs when things get bad. I have a good handle on how to calm myself down. So I think it's just like exposure to, different situations that kind of make you manage it. Like putting yourself in like uncomfortable situations. This past year, I did stand up, and that was like a huge breakthrough
Really?
thing for
That's
me.
so scary.
Yeah, it was terrifying. I cried
Yeah.
afterwards. I was like, oh my
You
god,
cried after?
it was fucking terrifying. Like because it was more just like this moment of just like, wow, I actually did that. Like because there was like for years I thought that would be impossible, and and I did it, and it was awesome. It was terrifying. The first set I did really well too. The second two, not so much. Second one was bad, but like I did it 3 times, and then I was actually getting on a roll with it, and then the pandemic happened. So
yeah, unfortunate
that was
timing. Are you planning on getting back
wildly
into
unfortunate. Yeah, except now I have to rebuild. Now I have to like
You have to build
get
it all
myself
up
to
again.
the point again. Yeah, it sucked. I was on a roll, and then like I got fucking completely cut from under me. But I want to do it again. I think it's good to kind of put yourself in that situation as scary as it is, because it kind of it's the closest that I've ever felt to like literally leveling up, like in real life. You know what I mean? Because you go through a situation like that, or go through like everybody's on you. You're trying to be funny at people who don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most stressful thing in the world. And then when you get over it and you come out the other side and you're fine, it's like, oh, I suddenly inherently have less fear about it just by having gone through it.
I think our brain like makes the connection of like, even if it doesn't go well, it's just like, wow, I survived. I'm not dead now. And so then you start getting that click that you can handle this shit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like, I don't know, it's not like diving out of a plane. It probably won't do that until I'm like maybe like 80 and have like nothing to lose. But because I would get the parachute that like both of them don't open. Like I feel like I'm that person. Like that would happen to me. So like nothing like that. But like if it's a situation that's just like socially, uncomfortable, I can do that. Yeah,
see, for me, like jumping out of a plane, that sounds totally chill. That sounds like a blast. But, someone, your face. But,
that is wild.
But like, when someone wants to do like or you get like a business call or something, like, hey, like a company wants to work with you, like, let's have a call and talk. And the idea of going like one-on-one to talk with someone in that, like, that is the scariest thing to me. Like, it makes me super anxious.
I totally understand. Like, I'll get an email from a sponsor, and I'll be terrified to read it for some reason.
Yeah,
like I won't open it. I'll put it off. Like it's really bad. Like I had to have like a friend of mine, like a relay shit, because there's something I don't know what the hell it is. I wish I knew more about that. Like why I feel that way about like just simple emails. It's very bizarre. It's kind of like actually, it's just a weird kind of inconsistency with the way that you interpret like danger, I guess, because the only reason that people are theoretically like stressed or anxious or nervous is because they perceive danger in a situation. But like there's no danger in opening an email. Like it's totally fine. I'm actually worse at socializing with people through like Discord and like through the phone and through like text than I am in person. Like
Really?
I need to see like a person's face. I need to like understand like the body language. I need to, there's a lot of tone, like even vocal tone that is missing when you can't see like, facial expressions. And so like I remember like at the beginning of this pandemic, I was like, oh fuck, this is like really uncomfortable for me to even just talk to the friends that I usually see.
Yeah.
Because
This
it's
must
such
be
a
so hard
different.
for you, especially now with like VTubers and having to get interviewed by me, right? Because like I mean you could kind of see like my expressions, but it's not, you know, obviously it's a
Yeah.
little different.
Yeah, no, it's totally weird. Like I can't I'm throwing myself into it. You know, I was actually super nervous before I came on, just because
Really?
I'm not used. Well,
I was
because
nervous.
I'm not used to doing interviews live, and you know, I don't know what the hell. I don't know what the hell I'm gonna say. It's gonna be stupid, you know, or if I'm gonna like lose myself in like a train of thought that like doesn't make any sense. You know,
No,
it's just a very
that's
different form of content.
yeah, no, I totally understand. Like I actually have always suffered with like social anxiety disorder. I've always been super socially anxious. It once got so bad for me that I was like I almost like starved myself like not being able to go outside and get food because I just didn't want to see like I didn't want the neighbors to see me.
Hmm.
So since then I've been like slowly trying to battle it and stuff. And streaming was like a huge part of that for me. Like, you know, being able to just tell myself like stop always thinking about like what could go wrong. And you know, just because you end up in such a shitty situation where you're like when you're afraid of everything and then you end up having no positive experiences, it's just like a one-way ticket to depression. So
Yeah, definitely. It's a. I mean, I think the internet is fascinating just because I feel like I don't know if I would have gotten over this stuff without it, but at the same time, there's so much more of it now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I would have gotten over my anxiety to the degree that I have because of it.
mhm.
But at the same time, its existence causes so much more of it.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I, I'm sure I don't know if you're aware, but like the other day, I posted a video of me like having a panic attack, like in the middle of like filming a video, and
No, I
I
didn't
I
know about that.
posted it. I posted it in part because I thought it was fascinating because it's very rare that like I catch that on video. Like so like seeing it, it's almost like watching somebody else go through it. You know, to me
Mhm.
because like in that moment, it's like it's very black. Like I don't want to say like I blacked out or anything, but it just feels out of body. So when you're seeing it happen, I just remember being like, this is really kind of interesting. And I'm far I'm in a far better mental place now than I used to be. So like, you know what? I figured I'd let me just share it. I think this might be interesting to some people. I found it interesting. It's a little embarrassing, so I waited until like 2 a.m. or like some AM hour, early AM hour to post it, so like as few people would see it, and now it's at like 400,000 views.
Wow.
You know,
Well,
so like, whoops.
I actually think
Um,
that's amazing that you posted that. Like, I kind of want to go watch that because, yeah,
yeah,
panic attacks, there's so many misunderstandings about, like, what it is and stuff. And, like, yeah, and a shame associated with
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
But,
no,
yeah.
it's a little uncomfortable to know that it blew up that way. That's like, not gonna lie, it's a little uncomfortable, but you know, at least you know, I gotten a lot of like really fantastic messages from people saying like, oh, this really like I understand certain things about it that I didn't understand before, or like people like relating to, and it's like that was good enough. I got the occasional like Paul Joseph Watsons being like,
Yeah.
you know,
The,
being like, that's not a real panic attack,
when you're
you
having
know,
a
but.
panic attack like that, like, how have you learned to deal with it? Like, how do you get yourself out of that moment? Because I was like kind of having a panic attack like that this morning. I had a bunch of stressful things happen, and I was like anxious about the interview, and then like a bunch of things. So it's like so I'm interested to hear like what your management tools are.
I I don't manage it super well. I know that I just try to convince myself like, oh, okay, this is happening. This has happened before. Whatever. Like if I'm still here and it's happened before, then it's not that big of a deal that it's happening now. Is kind of the way that I look at it. It's like, all right, gotta get through it. Drink some water. Just calm down. I've actually been taking
Hmm.
like CBD
Oh, does that
gummies and
help?
stuff like that just to it's yeah, I think so because I actually popped one just before I came on here.
Oh, how dare you?
And
Shoot.
yeah, They work. They work. I think you know, it's not like there's no cure to this thing, you know, like it's not like a thing that'll just be gone one day, but you know, I just ground myself, like take aware of, or like, you know, be very aware of my surroundings, and just know that, hey, you know, you've been through this before. It's like, it's not a big deal. You're not gonna die or anything, even though sometimes it really feels that way.
Yeah.
At least for me. I don't know. I can't speak for other people, but
I noticed the guitar in your background. Do you ever use guitar as a way to calm yourself down? Or in those moments, is that like impossible?
yeah, no. Sometimes I'll hammer away at it, or sometimes I'll just like play some stuff. Usually the acoustic. It's not usually I don't, you know. I don't usually like hammer around on the electric guitar to calm me down. That usually gets me amped up if anything.
Oh yeah,
But
electric guitar would not do that.
yeah, but yeah, I play to calm myself down, not super often, but sometimes, you know, if I find myself within arm's reach of it, then yeah, I'll do a little guitar. But for the most part, it's really just like hydration and just keeping yourself grounded.
Hydration, yeah. No, that's very true. There's something that I've done before where like you kind of like lie down and then you put because I'm also a guitarist, and then you put like the guitar. This only works with like a classical guitar and an acoustic. And you put it like it on your chest, and then when you play like the strings, you can feel the vibrations, and it's like kind of calming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to do that when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's such a specific memory that you just brought up. That's wild. I didn't think that anybody else did that. That's so specific.
Oh, really? I remember when I first discovered, I was like, wow, I've discovered a cure. Like, that's brilliant. But
yeah, it's weirdly soothing.
Yeah, no, it is. So, how long have you been playing guitar?
Oh my god, it must have been like 8 when
that's when I started too.
Yeah, like I can't pretend to be like a proper guitarist. Like I haven't really like pushed myself to get better at guitar or anything. Like I have friends who've been playing for far fewer years who just outclass me, and like my friend Lyle, who also has a YouTube channel. He does like video game stuff, Lyle Rath, but like he's a magician on that fucking thing, and I'm like, in ways that I can't comprehend. It's like, all right, cool. Like I've been in bands and I've been on stage and like I've performed, but like it's easy when you're rhythm guitar, you know, and you just gotta hit power chords, and it's a lot simpler, and that's kind of where my skill level lies.
I disagree. I think rhythm's actually really hard. So
really,
yeah,
I find it. I'll put it this way: like I can't do solos. You know what I mean? Like I can't do like, oh, I'm gonna shred and do like this improvised thing that like no one's expecting and be on point exactly with the chords that are playing, exactly in loop with the drums, and it's like I can't do that. But you give me a solid chord progression, I'll knock it out of the park. I can do that. But and sing, I can sing while playing, which is also something that like took a while to learn as well. So which is also probably
that is really tough.
Yeah, it's easy now, but like I remember a time when it was fucking just completely impossible. So
have you ever thought of performing while streaming?
I do. I've done.
Oh, you do that?
Yeah, I do sometimes. Not often. But occasionally I'll bust out the guitar and we'll play some stuff and we'll sing some stuff, and I'll test out some. I write a lot of music, and sometimes I'll like perform stuff on Twitch to see like how people like it, and if I should actually make it a proper track and put it on Spotify or whatever the hell. But I'm so bad at mixing that pretty much never happens. I have so many songs that I've just like written that are just like sitting in a notepad somewhere with like, you know, tabs. But
do you find that that's less scary, like performing with a guitar and singing is less scary than like doing the stand-up?
Infinitely. Yes.
No, really?
Yeah, because the thing is, it's like music. People are pretty forgiving with mistakes in live music. You know, like you go to a band. Let's say like you go to like some concert and you're seeing your favorite band or whatever, and like you know all their songs. You like them. They've already performed these things. You know these songs intrinsically, but you go see them live, and maybe they're off their game a little bit. Maybe like they're not hitting every note correctly. Maybe they're like their voice is a little bit off. Maybe he's been performing too many times today, and he wasn't hydrating enough. Like that's a bummer, but you're still gonna have fun because you know how those songs are supposed to sound, and you understand like, oh yeah, this is a fucking human being, and at the very least, I'm seeing live music. Which is in and of itself like an experience, even if something isn't like one-on-one with the recording. But with stand-up, if you mess up a joke,
no one's gonna believe that.
Like you can't just move on to the next chord and it's so much harder to pass off a joke that didn't land than a chord that missed its beat, because you can always like reacclimate. You could be like, all right, I missed that chord, whatever, I can come back. And I've done that a million times playing like live, either on Twitch or like, the handful of times that I was performing like on stage with like friends, like back in like high school days. And people don't notice. People are just having a fun time. But like, you mess up a joke, man, that's it. You're because then you're panicking. And there's like, it's not even like there's other people to help. You don't have like
it's
a
just you
drummer
alone
comedian.
on stage.
Yeah, you don't have like a drummer on the side who can like help distract while you get yourself together. It's literally just you on stage silently bombing and nobody laughing. It's like infinitely harder to do stand up than live music.
What made you want to try what made you want to try stand up?
Oh wow. That's a good question. I think I've just always had a large amount of respect for comedians, and just their ability to kind of go on stage and communicate things in a way that is both very relaxed but also very poignant, and just to be able to go up on stage and make people laugh. That's like not easy. Like there's a lot of people who like I think even in maybe some of us might have friends like this, right? Where we have friends who are really funny in the context of like the group, or like maybe even by themselves they're really funny. But you put them in front of a microphone, in front of an audience, and it's just a completely different ball game, like entirely. Like those people might bomb, and maybe the silent person in the group might completely nail it as a it's such a weird environment to go in or to explore. And I have a lot of respect for people like Dave Chappelle and even people like Norm Macdonald, who are like really subversive, and Bo Burnham, who I think is like one of the most brilliant.
Yeah.
I watched that special yesterday morning, and I was like blown away by how like just on point it was. And it's just an interesting field, because you have people like Bo Burnham, and then you have people like Dave Chappelle, and they both do like amazing stand-up, but like they're very different. Like the genre of comedy is so diverse in the way that you can approach it. It's like really, it's just really interesting to me. I think it's like a huge artistic skill.
Isn't it kind of scary? I feel like we're in this really weird position with like stand-up comedy right now, because there's so many. There's a bit of a cancel culture kind of going, and so many comedians are like concerned about what they're gonna say, and I don't know. Like, isn't that a little scary to be kind of getting into comedy? Like that you might say something that might get you in trouble?
I think that's the allure to me.
Really?
Like there's something kind of cool. This sounds probably like completely. I feel like people probably wouldn't expect this take from me, but I think the fact that people are so easily offended by comedy now is what makes it all the more enticing, because the whole point of a comedian, and maybe not every comedian, obviously there are some people who are a little bit more clean, like people like Jerry Seinfeld, and who do very clean comedy. They don't necessarily push the line too far, but they're very clever with the way they write. There's a lot of line pushing in, like the way Dave Chappelle's most recent special was like awesome, because he manages not only to push that line and say things that aren't okay, but also talk about it in a way that's like very wise and very worldly and very nuanced. And to me, it's just like, I understand the complaint in the sense that the people who genuinely try to go back in time and like go to like, you made this joke in the 90s, you're the worst. Like, I feel like those people are very fringe people. They do have a lot of pull, and they do have a lot of ability to get people like, you know, taken off of like certain platforms or whatever, but I don't respect those people, and I don't think most people do. And to me, it's just, I don't know. I find the fact that people are so easily off put, I feel like that makes that line stepping easier, you know? Like, there's something about it that kind of makes it seem, oh, I could do that, because the line is so low, or like the bar is so low for what is deemed genuinely offensive.
No, actually, now that you say that, that does make a lot of sense. Yeah, because like there's to go on the edge, right? To be kind of like, you know, do some kind of edgy humor. You don't really have to even say something that crazy that's going to kind of freak people out.
Yeah, you'll go viral for making like stuff that was on Everybody Loves Raymond, you know, like really like standard, like 90s you can make a 90s sitcom joke now and probably just trend on Twitter because people were trying to like cancel you for it, you know? Like, I just don't, it's annoying, but I don't think it's necessarily like a big deal. Like, I think you still have people like Bill Burr and Dave Chappelle, and they're still going to do their thing for as long as they're going to do it. And I think there is a difference between edgy comedy and just being edgy for the sake of being funny. Like, I think I noticed this on YouTube a lot, where like a lot of people will be like, oh, it's edgy comedy, I'm being like an edgy comedian, but it's like, there's no, edgy comedy means there's comedy there that needs to be made edgy. It's not just being edgy is the comedy. You know, you still have to have a good joke, you still have to have like a, you know, an interesting observation, you still have to like craft a joke. You can make it edgy, but the joke needs to be there. The joke can't be like, I said the N-word in like a Popeyes, you know? Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's not really a joke, you're just being a dick. Like, there's nothing
It's just
really.
a prank, bro.
It's just a prank, bro. It's like, oh, I pushed this guy into a corner of a train and like threatened him with a knife, but don't worry, it's just a joke. It's like, it's not a joke. I don't know. Like, I've seen that a lot on YouTube, especially in the last like couple of years, where it's like people will hide behind like, oh, I was just being edgy, dude. It's like, but that's it. That's all you were doing. It's not really.
Yeah.
I don't think people should be canceled necessarily for just like making edgy jokes or whatever, but like, they're not. They also have to be jokes, I think. Like, in my opinion. I don't know.
And
People
I
have
think also like the joke, it depends on what the joke is, right? Like, is the joke that like there's some, for example, like there's some I grew up hearing Jewish jokes like all the time from my family and stuff, and there are some jokes that are just, I don't know, like the joke is like that people believe those stereotypes, so that's why like it's a joke about the stereotypes. But then there's some jokes where it's like the joke is just like, haha, Jews are dying or something, and I'm just like, I don't get it.
Yeah, for me it's less of like a, is this like, I wouldn't like cancel anybody for like making an edgy joke that doesn't land, or even an edgy joke that I don't consider a joke. Like, I wouldn't be like, all right, like for me it's just more of like a, do I respect it and do I care? You know, like is that something that I would like, I don't know, like it's less about like, because you get into a conversation about like who decides what's a joke, which I think is a valid conversation to have in that context, but really it's not really about that. It's just more like, you know, do I respect the craft of this joke? No, I don't. Do I respect the craft of, like, you know, Dave Chappelle going on stage and talking about, you know, shit that's not deemed okay? Yes, I do. And there's a quality difference there that I think is fairly objective, but comedy is also super, super subjective. So, like, you know, I think it's almost a meaningless conversation to some degree.
You used to be part of the skeptic community, right? Like, that's at least like how people regarded you. Like, do you still consider yourself like, you know, a part of the skeptic community if there is one?
To be perfectly honest, I never you can find videos of me saying this even back then too. Just, I hate the premise of YouTube communities. I don't like it. I think, like, even back then, like, I was just like, I hate this term because, like, I'm not a skeptic. I'm just like, I'm making videos that I think are funny. You know, I'm just kind of like poking fun at things that I find amusing.
Yeah. As humans, they always want to categorize everything.
Yeah, even just like I've seen my face on like BreadTube like tier lists, and it's like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not a BreadTuber.
Yeah, people put me on BreadTube, and I was like, wait, what? I'm not even a leftist. Like, this is so weird. Why am I here?
Yeah, like I'm super left leaning. Like I'm like, I mean, I would probably like the most literal translation of like, or like the easiest way I could describe it, at least in modern political terms. These terms might not mean the same thing in like fucking 4 years from now, but I think like social democrat is probably like the closest.
Mm-hmm.
Is that's what I think describes me the best. But you know, like I still like, I don't know, like I'm not making like essays about like J.K. Rowling. You know, like I'm not like I just don't know what makes you qualified to be in a community. Is it just like, I feel like communities are built on YouTube specifically just because the algorithm makes it so. Like, there are plenty of people who like were in my recommendeds, like or not my recommendeds, but like when people would go to my channel, they would see people in my recommendeds, and because those recommendeds linked us all, that's what the community became. But really, I'm friends with, like, you know, she was a friend of mine that we don't talk super often, but like she's probably somebody that I would consider a friend. Derek, some black guy, obviously I do the podcast with. And really, as far as that community goes, that was pretty much it. You know, like I wasn't chatting up with like all these like fringe people. I wasn't like,
yeah,
I didn't go to No Bullshit's wedding or anything like that. You know,
you guys didn't have like community meetings.
Yeah, I just think the way that people project friendships onto people who like just happen to be doing the same thing, you know, it's very bizarre because it almost orchestrates itself, because like there were plenty of people who were expecting, like, you know, Sargon and me and everybody to just sort of meet up eventually, and at VidCon we did that because that's just sort of what was expected, and we just figured like, yeah, why not? You know, we're all relatively popular for the same type of things. Why not do this? But like, had there not been that community association made by people who were just like watching our content completely at random, I don't know if something like that would have ever happened. You know, it's interesting the way the audience shapes content creators in a very similar way to the way that the content creators will shape the audience. And I think
that's a really interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
Do you think that ever creates something like bad? Like, has that ever been a bad experience for you?
Not personally. Like I haven't. What do you mean by that? Like, do you mean like, do you mean
like where you felt like the audience was kind of having too much of an impact on you as a person?
Not really. There was a time where I felt annoyed that YouTube was just constantly putting me in recommendeds with people that I find and found kind of abhorrent. Like, it really bothered me that I wish YouTube could let a channel decide what channel shows up. You know what I mean? Like in their recommendeds. Mm-hmm. Like if I could be like, obviously recommendeds can be like whatever the hell they want, but like I don't want no bullshit in my recommendeds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like stuff like that where it's like, this is, but like you don't have that control. So there was a time where I felt like my content was getting lumped in with people who were infinitely worse than I was because the algorithm made it so.
Like alt-writers?
I don't know.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like alt-writers, or just people who were not even. There were people too who weren't even alt-writers, who were just like pushing narratives and like kind of pushing the type of content that I was doing. They were taking it and like mutilating it and like just sort of like very clearly pandering. You know, like I that's pandering is the one thing to me where it's just like, this is so unrespectable that
How can you
I
tell when
can't.
someone's pandering? Like, what are
When
like
they
the big
make
signs to you?
when there's literally no effort at all to criticize their own side.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is like the clear telltale sign. Like,
Yeah,
you
that's
can
a good
make
way to put it.
fun. Like, dude, I make fun of whoever the fuck you want, you know, like, sincerely. Like, if people are acting silly, by all means point it out. And I have no problem if you make a video that's exactly like 100% just poking fun at this side, right? But like, to make 80 videos a year and then none of them even mention, they don't even have to all be about the other side, but just like at least fucking mention. Like, I've made pretty specific. I made it a very specific point to kind of like say pretty regularly in my videos that, like, even when I was like making fun of primarily left-wing content, that like, hey, just so you know, this reminds me a lot of like the Fox News days when they were like trying to cancel every video game, and when they were like making a big deal about Mass Effect having sex scenes, and like, you know, I made a big video on Ben Shapiro's website for claiming that, like, again, in like the modern times, that like video games caused violence. And you know, in 2017 I made a video about InfoWars where they were like, you know, they were saying that the movie Logan was anti-Trump because the main villain was named Donald, even though that villain genuinely like exists in the comic continuity and is just like ripped. Like, the fact that you can go to some of these channels and just not find a single instance of them criticizing their side at all is that I think is the most obvious sign that you're dealing with a person who is primarily like profit driven and primarily just driven by, you know, the fact that their audience is essentially there because they're there to confirm their biases.
Yep.
You know?
There's what makes me really upset is that like it seems like there's like an incentive structure that really pushes you to kind of even if you're someone that kind of starts on this platform or starts creating content and you're hoping to remain and keep like some amount of integrity, it feels like there's so many forces trying to push you out of that. I just, like, for example, like I regularly make content. I make content a lot about like Israeli-Palestinian history, very critical of like Israeli history particularly. Right. And I just put out one video this morning that was critical of some Palestinians, and it's just one video where and immediately gets like so much hate and a bunch of people disliking it. So it's like, it's very frustrating that I don't know, like I guess like the tribal tendencies of like an audience can be really, really frustrating. And so I can totally understand, even though like I don't think it's a good thing, but I can understand why content creators, like, you know, end up in this mode where like they're only pandering to just one side because it feels better.
Well, it's no fun being the guy in the middle, you know, because everybody has like a problem with you. It's not like you're Dave Rubin, who's just like constantly pandering and like people hate him, yeah, but like he's also got like this weird amount of like support on one side because he sticks so heavily to it.
Yeah.
When you're in the middle, and I wouldn't even say I'm like in the middle, like I said, like I'm super like left leaning, like I'm pretty far over there, but like I'm in the middle in the sense that, yeah, I can make fun of like, you know, when progressives are acting like like idiots, and I can also like, I have no problem making fun of like InfoWars or Paul Joseph Watson or you know, all these fucking psychos on the right as well. It doesn't mean I don't have my biases. It doesn't mean I don't have like my positions that align more with one or the other. But it's not as fun being in the middle because everybody has someone that's like, you weren't hard enough on this, you weren't hard enough on that, you know, you're not far enough this way, you're not far enough that way, and it's like it's a lot more alluring to take that kind of like, yeah, I'll pander, fuck it. If you can't take criticism, then like you might as well pander. But at the same time, it's like, for me, I feel I need to be able to like be comfortable with myself.
Yeah.
You know, before like I don't give a shit what like random people on the internet think about me. Like I really couldn't care less. Sometimes I find it interesting, and sometimes if like they're like tweeting stuff that's like objectively wrong about me, I'll poke fun at it. But like it doesn't bother me really. Like I need to know that I'm doing things as ethically as I can. And to me that means I'm not gonna pander to people.
So
you know, like I can't do it. I don't have that bone.
Well, I think that's probably one of the reasons why people really like your content and people have stuck by you is because like you come off very authentic. And obviously getting to talk to you now, it's like, yeah, it's pretty obvious that is a huge, like, you know, it seems like very important to you to come off authentic.
Yeah. By the way, I'm not trying to like paint myself as like better than anybody because I'm like, I just mean like this is just genuinely how I feel about it.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't think you came off like that. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask something and now it like totally went off my mind. But has there ever been, I guess, like a moment where, how do you not let that stuff like start affecting you internally, like in your own kind of sense of self? I find especially like when I get two sides, like when I'm getting like hit on both sides, it really can start, I have a tendency to, you know, self-doubt. And when, you know, you're becoming like a public figure and stuff like I feel like that's a really bad mix. When you have like a tendency to self-doubt and all that. So like how have you handled that in the past?
I just have a really solid group of friends that have been around for a very, very long time. I've known my core group of friends right now, I've known for about 11 years. And they're still around. I've known them since high school and they're still around. They knew me before I had anything. They're like, these are my ride or die people. These are my family. So I've always had a good support system, and I've had, you know, when things on the internet are getting really hard, and they have, you know, like I had a very public relationship years ago that was like pretty, you know, that was insane, you know, to have that much attention put on something so personal. But I could always turn my computer off. I could always log out. I could always turn my phone off and just spend time with people in the real world. And I think that, like, unplugging from the Matrix really, really helps me. Because it helps me realize, like, yeah, stuff online might be stressful right now, but that's also not the world. You know? Whereas I feel like for a lot of people now, especially maybe they're younger, they're growing up in this weird environment where, you know, most of their friends are probably internet friends. You know, people that they can only experience on the internet, and then maybe their real life is you know, kind of stressful and fraught with like all sorts of different problems. I feel like it could be hard in that situation, but I've been fortunate enough to have been born in a time where like I know that I don't need the internet, but also that I can take advantage of a lot of what it has to offer without getting absorbed by it.
Yeah, I think that's actually really, really, really good advice. I guess like if we can get to that relationship,
Sure.
You mentioned that like having something really public was like of something that was so personal was a challenge. And I remember whenever I've seen public figures have like very public relationships, it makes me like anxious, just like instinctively. So it's kind of crazy for me to get to talk to you. Like especially about this because you experienced literally like one of my biggest fears. So tell me what it was like. Like, did you guys intentionally kind of make it public, or did it just like happen?
So there was no intention. So I should maybe back up a little bit. I met Lacey Green in a Skype call back when Skype. You remember Skype?
Oh yeah, I read about it in the history books.
Yeah. I think it's on the back of it was in an old Garfield comic or something. But yeah, I met her in a Skype call, and it was like just a friendly thing. It was like, oh hey, you know, we live kind of close, we should hang out. And then like I hung out, and then people were upset that we met. We took that first photograph together, which like kind of broke the internet for a minute. In front of a Chipotle, where people, it was like, I think I captioned it something like the strangest timeline or whatever, and everybody was like, what the fuck, this is crazy. But people were freaking out just because like we were together. We were in the same place and we were talking. That alone was like a huge deal because at the time there was like this huge divide where like it felt like people couldn't reach across and like talk, and we were perceived as on the complete opposite side of a very contentious, online political war that didn't really exist.
Yeah, culture war.
But and I did make a video where there was an implication that we were a thing, but that was literally a joke at the time. Like, I just thought it would be really funny if and we were both in on it. It wasn't necessarily like at the time that I posted that video, I think it's at 1.7 million views. Like, we weren't together, but I was acting like I had a shot. Like, I was acting all like macho. I was like, like, oh man, look at and there was like this attitude about it. And then after that was when, it started to develop into something serious. And then like, so we didn't necessarily plan for it to become public because at the time that I made that video, I didn't think anything would happen. Like, I thought I was just like being a macho asshole, like for the sake of the character. Like, but when it broke, and it broke because other people in her friends group at the time made it public. Like, they were the ones who publicized it, and we were like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we didn't initially say anything about it.
Was she upset about that?
We left hints after it was made, like after you could reliably Google it, which was pretty quick after it happened. We were just like, all right, well, I guess we'll just like, come out with it. But it was it wasn't cool. Just the thought of like all these people. Imagine everybody, like imagine hundreds of thousands of people like having an opinion about your relationship and about like, whether or not your girlfriend is like a monster, or whether or not you're a monster, or whether or not you're corrupting this person. It's crazy. It was like
sounds like a full nightmare.
It was a crazy, intrusive, like, there was an article, it might not be up there anymore, but like they wrote about this on the New York Times website. And
New York Times wrote about this?
On the New York Times website, I swear to God, the website, I don't know if it made the paper. There's no way it made the paper. Surely like some city in like Libya exploded that day. Like there must be way more important.
No, I'm
shit
sure your
than
relationship was much more important.
Yeah,
sure.
But it was on the website, and I read that, and I was like, this is a lot. This is a lot to handle. I never once thought that. Even
so
when we got together, I knew it was a big deal. I knew it was a big deal for our community, but I was not expecting that reaction. And like, there were a bunch of YouTubers on Lacey's perceived side, like the left side, who were like like Cat Black streamed for like 7 hours every day for a while, like ranting about like how like this is a quote, by the way, that aged really gracefully. She said, "I almost would have preferred it if she went with Sargon."
What?
Yeah, like crazy. Like, I don't know what people's perception of me was at the time, but like, I don't know. I really couldn't believe that many people had such a strong opinion about like the person that I chose to pursue a relationship with. Like, it was crazy.
It's crazy that someone would think that you're like more extreme than Sargon. Like, that seems totally nuts.
That confused me, especially for it to have come from like a fairly well-known creator. Like, I remember being like, that's a fucking hot take if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. I'm sure that was kind of a little offensive too.
I just didn't understand why people cared, Like, I like it I understand that like it was interesting, like maybe for like a week, but like this went on for months, man. People were like really intrusive about it. I remember like Lacey and I would be out to dinner, and people would like we would see people like recording us and like taking pictures, or like sneaking behind us and like record really weird shit. I don't know. It was a very interesting
Did that
interesting
stuff
thing to
bring
live
you
through.
guys closer, or did it cause more problems?
Oh no, it definitely brought us closer together. Like we are still like our relationship didn't work out, but like we're still good friends.
Oh, that's really
I,
good.
s- I I saw her, I think, a week ago, and I texted her like a couple days, like we talked a couple days ago as well. Like we're really close, I think, because probably because that whole event and how public it was and how uniquely stressful it was for both of us. There's a degree of bonding that happens in that kind of scenario where like you just kind of get
You went through
each other.
something together.
Yeah, when you've been through something so hyper specifically unique like that, like it does, it brings you it brings you really close. You know, like we're friends for life. I'm sure. You know.
That's actually really cool to hear, because yeah, a lot of people have a hard time being friends with their ex. Um, so
Yeah,
especially I find dudes especially have this problem, like, on average.
yeah, that's definitely fair. There's reason to, you know,
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's not the simplest thing to navigate. But I think in our situation, it wasn't even like an X thing. It's just like, wow, we're a team. We went through that. Remember that crazy? It was almost like we went to war together. You know, it was
Yeah.
like we were veterans, and like so there's just that mutual respect.
That's actually
that we
that's
both
what I
have.
was thinking. It sounded like a little bit of like a war. You know, you're like
Yeah.
comrades in a battle.
It's beyond a relationship at this point. It's just like this is just a person who understands the crazy shit that we both went through, and it's like it's cool. It's good to have that line of communication with somebody who understands.
Is that part of how you guys initially kind of bonded, because you were both content creators, and you know, you kind of like, you know, I feel like there's just there's some things that only content creators like understand, right? So was that like a part of like your initial bond together?
I think it's how any content creators bond. You know, like I think you know, because there are some avenues that it's kind of hard. Like I have friends in real life, and they're great, and they understand me in they've been around me for so long, so they know me. But at the same time, there are aspects of my work that I can't really talk to them about. Like they don't really, they don't get the nature of like sponsor relations, and they don't really get like. All my friends are like, you should just like take a vacation, and it's like, yeah, you don't understand. The internet's very fickle. You got to be on top of it. It's, you know, they're not wrong, but at the same time, you know, there are things that I have to explain that I don't want to because I'm lazy.
Yeah.
And I would rather just like, you know, there are content creator friends of mine who just get that. They understand the creative process. They understand, you know, what it's like to post a video, and then for some reason it's just like, why is it not going out to subscribers? That's so weird. Oh yeah, it's because of this policy that changed, and because the site's broken in this way. And there's a lot of things that you don't have to. There's no table setting needed in those conversations. And yeah, I think that's definitely why we initially started getting along so well. I think you know, just having that same career is a huge thing.
I had to sit down with my parents recently to have like a long talk with them to explain what I was doing and why they needed to be more careful with where they posted their address online, and like online privacy and all of that stuff. And it was so like hard for them to understand. Like, did you kind of like, have you had to go through that with your family at all?
No, my parents understood pretty early that you shouldn't be sharing shit on the internet that's not anybody's business. So like
that's nice.
they're very secretive inherently, but or at least online, you know, like they're just not used to it. They're older, you know. I'm like the second child of a second marriage, so my parents are like, you know, a little bit up there. So like they're not into the internet, so I have nothing to worry about as far as them like doxing me or anything. But they understood YouTube pretty quickly too. Like they understood that like I knew something about it that they might not have known. They encouraged me to do it for a very, very long time. And you know, I did have to convince them that it was worth pursuing as like a proper career. But I think the second I bought them like a flat screen TV,
and then that's when they're like, okay, this is serious.
Yeah. I knew I had to buy them something that they couldn't conceivably just get for free or like get for real cheap in order to prove to them that like, hey guys, what I'm doing is actually, you know, It's actually a job.
like a
I'm not
real
just like
job.
wasting. I'm not just like in my room jerking off for like fucking 15 hours a day. Like I'm actually
Yeah.
I'm making things and I'm making money. And they were just like, yeah, but you gotta you gotta put yourself out there. You gotta put out an application. I'm like, all right, Dad. And then the second the Samsung came in, he was like, do
It's
what you
a
want.
that's it.
Yeah, it's all it took.
Um, yeah. I think my dad will only like understand. My dad is a huge Ben Shapiro fan. So
Oh man.
he will only like understand or respect yeah, my job like if I ever get an interview with Ben Shapiro. That's all he asked me. It's like, "Did you interview Ben Shapiro?"
Yeah.
Like that's his big screen TV.
That's a dad, all right. Like my dad's not a Ben Shapiro guy. Like my dad is definitely like a Republican, but he's not like a Trumper. He's not like but he's definitely like in the rabbit hole a little bit. He's definitely like um I love my dad so much, but like he's so fucking silly. Like the stuff that'll tell me, it's like, you hear about all this censorship from the left? I'll be like, yeah, Dad. And then he'll immediately forget. He'll be like, ah, yeah, whatever. I was like, he's a very strange individual. I get most of my humor, I think, from him, but you know, I'm trying to remember like what the hell it was that reminded me of this. That you brought up Ben Shapiro, and like it made me want to say something, but I lost it. The train crashed. My train of thought is gone.
Story of my
I'm
life.
so sorry. Damn it! I ruined the interview.
No, it's okay. It's really weird that my dad likes Ben Shapiro because my dad's like super left. Like he's like economically extremely left, socially he's pretty left. But I don't know. He's just I think like there's a tendency, he's like an immigrant, and there's like a tendency of immigrants like wherever like they see someone who kind of is like them, like, you know, whether it's like online or on YouTube or something like that, he's just like, oh, that's one of us. That's so cool, you know. So yeah, he's just excited because Ben Shapiro is Jewish and talks about Jewish issues, and yeah, that's his thing. And very weird.
That's funny. Yeah, I've been trying to sway them. Well, my mom's super liberal, but she's also she's a crystals person. You know, she's very
she likes
like
crystals.
oils. Yeah, she's not like anti-vax or anything. She's not like crazy, but like she definitely like she leans into like, she likes supernatural. She's like a witchy kind of person, which it's so funny that my like Republican
you
dad
just casually mentioned that. She's like,
witch...
she's just casually a witch.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say like she wouldn't describe herself that way. That's just me, what I see is definitely like it's like preppy pastel colored witch. It's the way that I could describe my mom.
Yeah.
But it's always so funny when I go home and it's just like my mom and dad are so like politically different and they're still together and they're still happy. And I think that's part of why my politics are the way that they are. Like it's why I lean so heavily in the direction that I really firmly believe, but it's also why I'm totally comfortable talking to people who like, you know, are very, very different from me or have like really, really opposing viewpoints, and why I'm a little bit more patient, because I just know that there is enough between people that any divide that happens is really, unless you're talking about like literally like just straight up actual for real like white supremacists, you know, like where there's like no shadow of a doubt, like there's very few political divides that can't be bridged by just like understanding that people are human beings and people are just trying to do the best that they can. You know, obviously that the waters get a little bit murky when you talk about like people who are like talking on behalf of corporate interests and you know, that whole can of worms. But like your average everyday people, I think are more similar than they are different. And I think like if they just had a window into the other side that wasn't painted by the extremes of their side, I think a lot of good could be done. And that's kind of like the person that I tried to be. That's what I tried to be on YouTube also. Like I wanted to be like, hey, there's stuff going on the left that I think is really, really silly, but I'm on the left as well, and I think it's silly. So like you don't have to go to the right to think this is silly, you know? I tried to be the left-leaning guy who could still be like an anchor for people to be like, hey, you know, we're not, this side isn't all people trying to fucking make a big stink about literally everything. Like, there are also level-headed people here as well.
Did you always,
or at least that's what I tried to do.
Did you always consider yourself left-wing, even when you were kind of like in the anti-SJW like YouTube phase?
Yeah, without a doubt, because I just didn't think it was all that political to make fun of things that were just objectively silly. And there were things that I was wrong about, like, for sure. Like, there's definitely the thing that I can think of immediately, like right off the bat, is Richard Spencer. He had like a video that went trending back when nobody knew who he was. Like, he was just this dude who was like, he fucking had this thing where he like gave like this weird like Nazi sounding speech, and it was like, you know, it was played for like an edgy kind of thing. And I remember thinking like, wow, that looks highly suspect. And then I Googled him. I didn't find much. All I saw was this Google thing that just said he's an alt-righter or whatever. But at the time, I had been called alt-right like a million times. You know? Like, so to me, like that had meant so little. And I was like, okay, so he's being called alt-right. He's probably not. He's probably just like some edgy asshole. Turns out, very clear as day, white supremacist, crazy, like out of his goddamn mind. But at the time, my desensitization to that word, because it had been used against me,
it was like boy cried
for
wolf
so long,
kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a boy cried wolf situation where it's like I didn't take it seriously, because how could I? Like, if I was being called a right winger, not even just a right winger, like people were calling me like white supremacist and alt right, like far. And I'm this dude who like is a very heavy Bernie guy, you know, like very heavy. And I don't mean that in like a way to like, there are like some right-leaning people who like Bernie Sanders, but I mean like even just beyond that, just straight up politically and socially and like every bit of it is left-leaning. So the thought that could be used against me so earnestly by so many people just made that word just completely toothless. And I didn't take it as seriously as I should have. And I really, you know, that's just young Chris making stupid mistakes, not researching thoroughly enough. Because I probably could have found like better information. But, you know, that was also back when I was still trying to figure this thing out.
Do you feel like any guilt about, because at the time it was like kind of really trendy to hate on, I guess, like a lot of people, you know, who are seen as like SJWs. Like I think Milo is one of their names. Like I forget their full name. But I feel
Milo
like,
Stewart,
Milo
Riley
Stewart.
Dennis.
Do you feel any guilt like about that kind of stuff?
No, because I never made videos about them.
Oh, okay.
I never, like, the things that I would make fun of were things, I would always make a point to make fun of, like, either institutions or, like, viral, like one hit kind of, like, if something is silly, like, let's be real, like, there are people who, like to say that they had, like, oh, they had an anti-SJW phase, but it's like, I watched some of that stuff that I made back in the day, still, to this day, and I'm like, this is still pretty fucking...
Like, it's still cringe.
Dumb.
Yeah.
You know, this is still... like, I would, like... So much of it is so silly. Like, that there was, like, that, oh my god, like, cultural appropriation rap by, like, this show on Comedy Central. But I would always make fun of, like, MTV or, like, you know, BuzzFeed or Comedy Central or, like, you know, companies that were trying specifically to appeal to young people by using these like woke kind of languages and woke terminology that they clearly didn't understand. Like there's a lot of distortion that happens when you take like things that are fleshed out in academia and then they trickle down to the pop sphere where like, you know, the premise of toxic masculinity doesn't mean what people think it means, you know, like not in the way that BuzzFeed describes it. And it's the same thing that cultural appropriation is like a very specific concept, but then it like trickles down to like people trying to make a buck for BuzzFeed, and then suddenly it's this ridiculous thing that's easily memeable. So those were the things that I was making fun of. But like when it came to like trans stuff, like Milo Stewart or like gender stuff, I never made a video targeting those people because I remember thinking these are just people. These are just people chilling out. Like I don't really understand what the hell they're saying. I don't know if I agree with any of this, but
Yeah.
these are also kids, and even when they weren't kids,
They were
gender
really
and
young when they made those videos. That's what a lot of people forget.
wait, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Like Milo was really young when they made those videos.
Right?
I
No,
think Milo was like
exactly.
16 or something.
I didn't see it as a worthy endeavor to like go after children, even if I disagreed with them. Like it was just like it's a kid, like whatever. But Riley Dennis wasn't a kid, and I remember not like I would have opinions about the stuff that she would say, but I never made about this person because gender and transitioning and that entire aspect of discourse is just an area that I knew even back then that I didn't really have like a lot of experience with. I don't really know a lot about this area of sociology or even science. Like this is not my area of expertise. I'm going to stay in my lane, and I'm just not really going to be a part of this conversation. I don't know if there's really much that I could add that's of value that isn't already being added.
Do you think that Lacey was treated? Do you think that Lacey was treated badly by like quote unquote like her side, like the left?
Without a doubt. Like that group of people is super shitty. No question about it. Yeah.
Was that like also something?
Total...
Sorry, yeah, you continue. Sorry, you continue.
Yeah, no, like, cause she made that video, taking the red pill, and people just saw the thumbnail and just kind of assumed that like, oh, she's going right. But if you watch that video, she's literally like, talking about how she's literally debunking the concept, or she's like arguing against the concept. It wasn't like she's just like, oh, I'm a right winger now. Like the idea that was what that video was just shows that they just didn't watch the content.
Yeah.
And I knew that they didn't watch the content because they were saying shit about me that made no sense. They were attributing things that like other people did to me. And I was just like, you don't know who you're talking about or to, because you're just seeing a thumbnail that looks like it could be a Sargon thumbnail, or you're seeing like a video title that looks like it could be a standard anti-SJW title, but you didn't watch the video, so you don't even know what you're arguing against. It was very frustrating. And it still is. Like there are still people out there today that still inexplicably will call me an alt-righter on the reg. And it's like, look, man, I don't care, because ultimately I know what I am, and I think I've done a great deal to kind of be pretty upfront with my politics. So like, I don't really care what they think, but at the same time, it's like the delusion that is required to still hold that opinion after all this time, and to still even be thinking about it, by the way, is just bizarre.
Well, I find like the way these things work is that it's just a cycle of someone says one thing and it could be totally untrue, and then another person hears that, repeats it, and then 3 people hear it, and then it just ends up taking like a life of its own. And so like just one person having like this wrong idea about you can suddenly create like a full standard of people actually thinking those are your views. Like that's been something that has happened to me as a content creator, and it's been really, really, really frustrating. Like especially when the original people who started those rumors say like, oh no, I was wrong, right? But it doesn't matter, like even though, because it's already out there, like this, and people already get that conception, and that shit follows you everywhere.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I mean, it's what happened. The reason I don't feel guilty though is aside from the fact that I just didn't make some of that content, that a lot of people, but even some of the stuff that I did that I was like, off base on or wrong about, was I get messages all the time about how like, my content pulled people to the left. I don't know how that's possible, because I was just like making fun of shit. I didn't think it was possible that my content was pulling people to the right either. Like, it just completely baffled me that was the case. But I've gotten a lot of messages from people like, yeah, you pulled me to the left, and I've gotten people saying that on Twitter that like, yeah, you pulled me to the right as well. And that's unfortunate, and I'm sad that that's the outcome. But at the same time, it's like, I made stuff that I found funny, and a lot of it I still think is pretty good. So I don't know. I have a hard time feeling guilty about it. have a hard time feeling like apologetic about it. That's not to say that I didn't make mistakes, but I'm also where I am now because of a lot of those mistakes.
It's hard to get it. It's hard to know.
It's weird.
It's hard to know, like, with content, especially because, again, so many things can go the other way. Like, yeah, sure, someone might have watched your content and then, you know, clicked next to, like, someone a little more extreme, and then voila, they've gone down this, like, you know, like, alt-right pipeline or something. But on the other hand, someone might have, like, watched your content and be like, oh, like, you know, this person's, like, a leftist and they still think these things are really dumb, so I can still remain a leftist and think these things are dumb. So who knows, like, how many people it's something that's a challenge, like, where people talk about, like, platforming, that automatically when you, like, platform an idea, that means that you've kind of, you've just automatically allowed that idea to take hold. But you can also platform an idea and, you know, make the idea look really bad and then cause a bunch of good things to happen.
Yeah, I think Vosh is actually really great at that. I think I think he the way he's able to I mean, he's definitely like a debater, like by trade. It seems like he's very comfortable doing that, and he's very good at it. So like when he platforms people, it's there's no gain, there's no positive thing for the person being platformed. Like I feel like he always steamrolls the people. I'm sure there's some times where he doesn't. Like I haven't seen him personally, but yeah,
he's a really good debater.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I think there's a time and a place for that, and I think I don't know. It's not to say, like, I don't want to sound like I never made mistakes, or I don't want to sound like if I could go back, I would do things differently. Because I would. There's certain things that I would change. There was certain jokes that I might have worded a little bit more clearly. But really the best I can do is just not make the mistake again. You know? Like, that's really all I can... Because the thing that bothers me about the whole apology thing, like, apologize, is that I really don't feel like people want an apology. Like, I really don't think that. I think...
You're insulting my Canadian culture right now. I'm very offended.
I'll word it this way. If somebody apologizes to you out of sincere, like, they feel like they have to apologize without you asking for them, that is an apology. Right? That is what an apology is supposed to be. But if you ask somebody for an apology and then they apologize to you, that doesn't really feel like an apology. It just feels like placation. It feels like, okay, I'm going to say this because you want me to say it. Mm-hmm. If I'm ever sorry, I'll apologize and you won't have to ask me. But don't ask me for it, because you're not going to get an authentic apology. Like, you just won't. The best I can do is not make the same mistakes that I made in the past, do better. And that's really it. I'm not, like, I don't feel the need to apologize because I feel like I've done either the work or the progress necessary to facilitate what an apology is supposed to represent in the first place. Or at least that's kind of how I think about it.
So have you ever actually, I don't think you've ever put like a full apology video, right?
No. There are videos that I've taken down because I've gotten something wrong in them, but I've never... Have I apologized? I apologize for, like, being late. Yeah. For, like, whoops, sorry, this video's like 3 months late, sorry. But no, I don't know. There are things that I regret that I just haven't done again, and that's your sorry. You know, the fact that I'm not pandering to people every single day, posting meaningless fucking outrage merchant garbage, that's my apology. Me not defending obvious Nazis because I didn't do the fair research, that's the apology. But if you want me to, like, sit in front of a camera and like grovel, like, that's not gonna happen, because quite frankly, I just don't care. Like, there are these weird people who, like, think they have like a key to the left where they're like, we won't let you in unless you do this, and it's like, no. Like,
I hate it when people think that they represent, like, an entire group of people. That shit drives me insane.
Well, you're also just not in charge of that. Like, you can't control whether or not I believe something. You know, sorry. I believe in a lot of these left-leaning principles. I'm on the left. Sorry if that bothers you. You're going to have to come to terms with that. because you don't hand out the passes, because this isn't a club. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, especially like on places like Twitter. Very frustrating.
Yeah, especially when anybody can participate completely anonymously. Like, come on, fuck off. It's so silly.
Yep.
Fortunately, most of the people that I interact with, even those people who are like pretty far left, don't believe. Like, I feel like that's an attitude. But this is the thing. I feel like this was an attitude that was really, really prevalent back in the day. Like back when I was like really doing a lot of like the anti-SJW stuff. I feel like this was mainline left YouTube. Like, I know Vosh has talked about this before, but like the left's representation, like proper representation as far as like pushing for policies back then, was
before it was really
awful.
bad. Yeah,
it was so bad. Like, you had these like lunatics making like a really stupid argument and like really easily like debunkable stuff too, and it's just like, why would you do that? And then like slowly but surely, like you had like Contra and Vosh and some others that I don't recall by name. I apologize, but I just think you got to combat content good. You got to combat content with good content. Is just kind of how I feel about it. And back then, it was just getting ridiculous. It was really unsettling. I apologize for the mic for the people in chat, by the way. I'm sorry.
Oh. No, I don't think the audio is that bad, right?
Yeah. I'm an audiophile though, so I know it's gonna bother the shit out of me here. Yeah.
I wonder why it is. It might be Discord. Discord can be really annoying sometimes with that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I was streaming earlier and it was fine, so like I don't know. It's probably Discord.
So going back, I guess, like to your relationship, would you ever is it kind of like a cautionary thing for you to now be like super private about your relationship, or do you think that that's just like impossible?
It's definitely something that I've struggled with. I'm trying to figure out how to go about that, because there is an element of I'll put it this way, like being public in a relationship was really put a lot of pressure on me, put a lot of pressure on us, and it was just a lot of attention that I didn't necessarily want. But at the same time, when you're in a relationship, you want the freedom to be as open about it as possible, so it's something that I'm trying to figure out myself. Like if I like right now I'm just trying to focus on just like work and like doing that stuff. I'm not like in the dating realm at all. I cannot do that. Not right now. But I think that's definitely something that I'm gonna have to figure out. Like, do I want public thing again? No, but do I want to have to keep shit private? Like that's basically like the balancing act that I'm gonna have to do.
Yeah, and that stuff's really, really hard, because then you just feel like you're being dishonest with people.
Yeah, and also like there's also a social element where it's like, because I've definitely had this before. Like before I saw Lacey, I was seeing somebody, and that was like a relatively private thing. I didn't publicize it too much, but I remember there was a conversation where like, oh, are you hiding me so people think you're single? And it's like, no, I prefer privacy in this regard.
Yeah.
So that's a complicated minefield of like, emotions, and there's a level of maturity needed on, both parties to make something like that work. I would like to think that the next time I get involved with a person, it's not going to, if it is public, people aren't going to throw as big of a fucking stink about it as they did the last big public thing that I had, because there's no reason for it. There's no interesting story there beyond just like somebody seeing somebody,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know.
Like who would be considered on the opposing side of you now? Like, I don't even know.
I don't know. I don't really consider myself on a side. I have my political side, but like I don't view my channel that way. Like I don't view my YouTube channel as a repository for my serious opinions. I view it as like almost like a discography, where like I'm making content specifically to entertain, and I want people to be able to watch. If I make a video, I want people to be able to watch it over and over again, and I want people to be able to watch that video a year from now and still find it funny, even though the subject is completely, dead in the water or like really, really old. That's the goal with the stuff that I make. And sometimes I'll have if I do like a glasses off video that's a bit more like serious, that's like the exception, but those are pretty few and far between. Most of the stuff that I make is just supposed to be fun to watch or be funny in some way. And I don't always succeed in that, obviously. Like, you can't always fucking nail it, but it's like an album. Like if a band writes an album, there might be a couple songs in there that have like a real message, but the main goal is that this is supposed to sound good. And this is supposed to be entertaining, and you should be able to play this when you're, relaxing. You should be able to play this while you're, vacuuming or you know what I mean? Like I view content more from like a project angle than I do I need to say something, because like I feel like my Twitter is that, like if I have an opinion, I'll just tweet about it, like, or if I have like a really strong opinion, I'll bury it in a bigger video that I'm doing that's mostly designed to make you laugh, but also like, hey, here's this nugget of like something that I really think, and like, I don't know. I feel like most people now view content as a way for them to say something, which in some ways is good, but like at the same time,
like get this platform, but it's also a pretty toxic way of looking at your content.
Yeah, I just don't want to waste anybody's time. Like, if I'm gonna like post something on my channel, I don't want it to be like, oh, here's Chris saying the pay gap isn't real for like the fucking 900th time. You don't need to hear the same opinions over and over again. Like, you just don't. Like, and as far as I'm concerned, if I were to make videos about literally every single thing that happened, you would just be hearing the same shit again. So I just want to make stuff that you could just watch again, that's like fun to watch, that you can appreciate the effort that goes into it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's the goal. Like, I'm not here spamming you every day with a quartering take,
Yeah.
Here's here's She-Ra and why this is bad for the West. Like, it's not my style.
Well, like, if you look back, I guess, at your career as an online content creator and a public figure and all of that stuff, were there, like, any kind of moments, because you said that you don't have any regrets, but did you have any shitty moments, like, with other creators, like, where, say, as an example, like, someone that you were a fan of, and then you get to actually meet them, and then it turns out they're, like, very different than what you expected in a very disappointing way?
I am very fortunate that most of the people that I have met in real life have turned out to be very cool as well. And even people who I was expecting to be, just totally cool. And I think you realize that, I think you realize pretty quickly that, like, off the internet, people are normal.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I had this one Twitter account that was, like, on my ass every day, like, harassing and just, like, constantly, like, criticizing literally everything I said, sometimes validly, sometimes not, but, like, really on point. Like, every single, like, thing that I tweeted was just all over it. And then you meet them in person, and then suddenly it's just, like, they're a person, and they're chill, and, my phone's... And, I don't know, like, most people that I've met have been pretty cool. There are two exceptions.
Okay, let's hear about them.
One I won't get into, because, to be honest, I kind of forgot what it was.
Okay.
But two was Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin, who I met, I was on the Rubin Report years ago. And that was a weird one, because he was very chill, but I also noticed it was very agreeable. There was never, like, a point where it was just like, he would speak, and then I would find myself disagreeing with stuff that he was saying, like, off camera, and I would mention it, but then, like, he would agree with my disagreement of his. And it was just, like, very...
Yeah.
It's very weird, and that was kind of off-putting, and then, like, later on,
That's like his brand, though, right?
Exactly. That's, I mean, at the time it felt a little bit more possible that he was genuinely like a liberal who just thought things were kind of crazy, because that's how I felt. That was exactly
Yeah.
where I was approaching things from, and I made the mistake of assuming that he was a genuine actor. But at the same time, like, he was the first person that contacted me when I moved out here to Los Angeles, and I remember, you know, I'm moving out of my parents' house. I'm moving into a place with my roommates. For the first time in my life, I am financially stable. I'm like really an adult for the first time in my life here. And then this dude with a show, with an interview show, wants to talk to me. So I was like super excited about it. I was just like, this is awesome that stuff like this is happening already. And I think maybe that kind of got in the way of me kind of judging the situation a little bit more accurately. I just think the excitement of being wanted, like being wanted on a platform like that is very cool. So like, my character judgment was not as on point as it otherwise probably should have been.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever. Live and learn.
I think that's pretty self-aware though, that you can like look back and realize that you had, you know, different incentives that were kind of like affecting your ability to judge it accurately.
I mean, it's hard not to be self-aware when anxiety is a major component of your.
That's true.
You know,
that's true.
You know, it's there's rarely a time that I haven't been like introspective or like, you know, self-reflecting. It happens probably too much, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I mean, I think back and I understand like where my headspace was at, and I understand like the faults of the human brain. Like we're not perfect agents, and we all, you know, make mistakes, and we have opinions that either evolve or change over time, or maybe they just strengthen over time, or they stay the same. I'm just very aware of my limitations as a person. You know, I understand that I'm just as susceptible to you know, influence. I'm just as susceptible to marketing. I'm just as susceptible to subconscious imaging or imagery, or like, you know, thinly veiled you know, Trojan horse ideas, you know, like I'm just very aware.
I'm sure there were Trojan horse too, so
that's true, yeah. But I'm very aware of my limitations in that way, and which is kind of partially why it's difficult for me to understand. I shouldn't say it's difficult for me to understand. Like I understand what they're saying, but like whenever I hear like I was normal and then I watched a Chris Reagan video and now I'm in the KKK, it's really difficult for me to comprehend that as somebody who is very self-aware. Because like I've been exposed to all of this content too, far more extreme content than mine. Like I was watching, not even because I agreed with it, but just out of sheer curiosity. I was watching fucking Ben Shapiro. I was watching, you know, oh my god, I'm trying to remember like specific. There was this one dude, Stefan Molyneux and like Jared Taylor, like really like extreme shit. And not once was I like, wow, they have a point. Or not once was I like, wow, I think I might become a racist now.
Yeah, like, that weirds me out too sometimes. Just like how we assume that people are so more impressionable than, I don't know. It seems very strange.
Well, that's the thing. I think people are impressionable, but like, I cannot comprehend personally, in my experience, watching a Stefan Molyneux video, and I have seen many, and coming away from it like with any of my core values changed to the degree that I would be willing to treat like minorities worse, or like think that they're like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, and maybe in fairness, this is because I was already an adult by the time I was watching a lot of these things. Like maybe there is something to be said about, you know, younger kids who are like finding this content and are like a lot more impressionable and a lot more susceptible, and even adults who might be, you know, mentally compromised, although I have a hard time imagining any adult more mentally compromised than myself. So there is something to say about that, but like at the same time, there is a knee-jerk reaction that I have where it's just like, how does one get convinced that, minorities are the devil if they didn't already think that? Part of me thinks like you were already on your way to being a bad person and you're blaming me as like a scapegoat to like absolve yourself of responsibility for like falling into shit. But at the same time, I do understand again that, younger people are a lot more susceptible. So there's a nuance to it.
Yeah, I think that there can be like some things like where someone does, especially like, a creator can mention, oh, like this fact that you would agree with. And then they'll mention another fact that's not really a fact. And it's like some misinformation. I don't know, like Black people do this amount of this and that's like, or they have this like IQ and that means this. But they're like, and a lot of those types will always say, oh, but I don't dislike Black people, like they always claim that what they're saying, that they're not like actually Nazis and all of that stuff. So I think that that's probably a way that people get transferred. It's very rare that someone will just like listen to something, say like, oh, Black people are the evil, and then that's how their mind gets changed.
It's a lot more subversive. It's a lot more subtle. But like even when it was the subtlest that it could possibly be, like I remember thinking like, oh, this guy's a fucking racist, isn't he? like it wasn't like I don't know. I guess it's just beyond. It's just this weird thing where I really it's hard for me to put myself in the shoes of somebody who is swayed by those videos, and maybe that's why I was like so dismissive of it for such a long time. It was just like I just don't understand. This can't possibly work on anybody. But I guess it does, because clearly I remember even back when. And I've told the story before, although I think you'd be interested to hear this. There was a period, I think in 2016 or 2017, where this big company or this rich benefactor came to me and said, you should make videos. And I can't remember what the specific demands were, but it was something along the lines of you should make videos supporting the right, or like you should make videos supporting Trump or whatever. And they were offering like a stupid amount of money for me to do that. And I remember being like, no, like I didn't want to do that. But like this is like a widely, like a pretty open secret as far as like content creators go. Like like these people really did go around like trying to like fund people to like just take the Republican talking points and just fucking go at it and just like propagandized. And I remember
you were not tempted at all, not even a little.
No, because like I immediately knew it's like, yeah, this is a lot of money, but first of all, I didn't want to be bought, and I also I didn't want to work under anybody. I didn't want to like if I had an idea for a video, I wanted to just do it and not have to worry about some oversight or like whether or not it was okay. If I'm doing like a sponsor video, that's fine, because that's like it's a product, and like typically I like the thing that I talk about. I don't really do a sponsor thing for things that I haven't used or haven't enjoyed. But like that specifically felt really wrong, because like even back then it's like, dude, I'm super left wing, like I know that about myself. If I have to actively go against like what I believe, like that's different. Like I can make fun of like liberals acting like idiots, because that's not going against what I believe. That's just making fun of a person, But like the thought of just constantly having to make videos about shit that I didn't care about or didn't believe, that was so torturous. Especially because YouTube was like the only thing I had going for me at the time, and like really the only thing that I really enjoyed doing. To turn that into a chore of that magnitude was just not worth it to me. But it's for that reason that I know people definitely took that money. I don't know who. I can't confirm. I have my suspicions. But like people definitely took that money, man. Because there was no. Yeah, I would love to know. I hope maybe there's like some expose sometime in the future that like really puts all that out in the information space because, like,
Yeah,
fuck
I feel like you
UFOs.
should be forced to be transparent with that shit, to be honest.
No, totally. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It's very weird, that whole thing. But that's the thing that happened. So just keep in mind, anybody who is suspiciously one-sided and suspiciously consistent, I would be skeptical.
That's true.
Yeah.
Suspiciously consistent. I feel like consistency is something that everyone always acts like it's always a good thing, but it's not always a good thing. Like, there are some problems with that. Like, you
It's
should
a
be, I
good
guess, morally
thing.
consistent, but
Yeah, like I feel like I've been fairly consistent. Like of people in my sphere, I feel like I've definitely been the most consistent. At least as far as like my outward opinions. Like I feel like none of my opinions haven't really changed that much. I think I'm a little bit more in favor of certain things than I used to be, but like I was always in favor of them, just like not entirely. Like I think I used to be kind of anti-gun. But I think I've eased up on that lately. I think I feel like a little bit
is
more.
it the influence of Vosh?
Huh?
Is it the influence of Vosh? You know?
No, I think it was just like personal, just like talking to friends of mine and just thinking about it and just like I don't know, like I think, and maybe this is like a really shitty argument, but like I like to think of it in a situation like this where it's like there are like millions of guns in the country and there's probably like infinitely more than there are people, right? And mass shootings do occur, and that's really sad. But the fact that there are so many people in the country and there are so many guns in the country, it shocks me that the violence is as low as it is. And that's probably like really sad. It's probably like a really depressing metric to measure that. It's like, oh, there's not as many mass shootings as there could be, is probably like really shitty and really sad and really dystopian. But I don't know. I like to imagine that most people are good. I like to imagine that like your average everyday person isn't going to go out and shoot up a school, and like I just don't know. I've just seen situations where like things would have been better if, you know, the person had a means of defending themselves. So I kind of, that's probably like the most right leaning position I have, I think, is just I think guns are fine, you know, and I think guns are cool, kind of.
I have mixed feelings about guns because I'm like, I study military history, so I'm like a huge gun nerd. Like I nerd out intensely about historical guns, and like weaponry, like in general. But on the other hand, I also, as a Canadian, like I really enjoy just not ideologically, but just practically, I really enjoy living in a community where very few people have guns. Like that's just not a fear on the side, that like when I hear about something happen, it's because like, you know, someone had a crossbow and crossbows are really challenging.
Yeah.
So they only got one shot off and that was it.
Yeah,
So,
you're not wrong. I agree with the premise, right? Like if you had, let me put it this way, like if you had a situation where you could get rid of every gun, like just like literally erase it from history, then yeah, we don't need that, you know, like fuck it, like get rid of it, because then there's no chance of mass shootings at that point. But the unfortunate reality is that there's so many weapons in circulation right now that it would be impossible not only to take them away from people who already have them, but to stop the circulation of guns like in the black market. And I feel like
it's like too late in the US.
It really feels like a too late situation. So you can either learn how to live with them or just continue to fail at passing legislation that will limit them. And it's depressing. Idealistically, I would like to live in a world where I wouldn't have to think about the possibility of getting gunned down in the street. But the sad reality is they're already out there. There's so many millions of them. And there is a case to be made. It's like, yeah, if you illegalize them for normal people, you know, people with access to, you know, under the table arms are going to get them. And then your average citizen is uniquely disempowered in that situation.
Yeah, the ones who follow the law are in trouble.
Yeah, because I don't know, like I don't know. It's a very complicated issue, but I just think I'm trying to look at it more from a pragmatic standpoint, where like I just don't think you could realistically get rid of every gun. And if that were possible, I would support it, but it's just not. So like, you just kind of have to find the best way to live in a world with them. And I think that is just, I think there should be gun control. Obviously, I don't think you need, there are certain guns that I think are a bit like fucking excessive. I don't think you need like a fucking warthog turret or anything, but at the same time, like I think a handgun is fine, or like a rifle, I think is fairly okay. Handguns, especially for like self-defense purposes, I think it's more than fine.
Okay, I have one last very serious question.
Okay.
Because I was watching one of your YouTube videos, and you said something that I found a little disturbing. Okay, very disturbing. Right, I'm just like warning you. You mentioned that you like taking scalding hot baths, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if that was like a joke or that was like a serious comment. And I need to know the truth.
No.
Do you actually take scalding hot baths?
Wait. Is that really like a controversial thing to take scalding hot baths?
Yeah, that's so bad for your skin.
What are you talking about? My skin's great.
Okay, well, it would be even greater if you didn't take scalding hot baths.
So, do you take like cold showers?
No, you're supposed to take like a hot bath or maybe a warm bath, but not scalding hot.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, so I speak with hyperbole a lot. I don't literally step into a pot of boiling water.
Okay, I know it's not boiling, but it's not supposed to be like painful when you.
No, it's not. It's not painful. It's just I like it really hot, but not to the point where it hurts me. I'm just exaggerating when I talk about like shit like that. But like I do like. I don't know, like a nice hot shower that's like right on the rim of like almost being too hot is pretty satisfying. It just feels really like especially clean, I don't know.
Is it because like probably... it's boiling the bacteria as it boils your skin?
It's what it feels like. I don't know how founded that is by modern science, but like it feels cleaner than cold. Than even just slightly colder baths or slightly colder showers,
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't.
Do you do it to your face as well? Like, do you put like hot water and like really hot water on your face?
Well, I lower it a little bit when the face comes into play.
Okay, that's good. I was worried.
No, I'm not like Jeffrey Dahmer or like some psycho who just like sits in like a scalding hot bath and like submerges his face. And like, no, that's some crazy shit. If somebody like actually like scalding hot bath and then like lets it hit their face, that is wild. I'm glad that's not the brain that I'm born with.
Even just normal hot water is not really good for your skin. So you've got to protect it because otherwise you'll be forced to be a VTuber like me.
What do you mean? Like, wait, so it's just lukewarm is the only temperature that's
not
okay?
Lukewarm. Okay. So where it's like it's pretty hot, but it's not hot. I don't have like a temperature in my head.
That's the thing.
It shouldn't be steaming, like really like intense steam.
Oh yeah, my showers do steam. But they don't hurt me.
Yeah, no, it's not good for your skin.
Oh man, whoops. I don't know. I'm not going to stop.
I don't know if you were ever going to do a pivot into like the skincare YouTube thing, which is very profitable right now. But yeah, you're going to have to change some habits if you're going to get in there. Like
I have been consistent for many years, and this is an avenue that I will remain consistent in.
God damn it.
Even despite knowing the risks, I'm willing to take that risk.
I'm scalding hot. I actually, when you said scalding, I didn't believe it was full scalding, but I still was like, oh, it's pretty bad. But I guess one more question, but not a serious one. Do you believe in cartoon rights in VTubers?
Do I believe in cartoon rights?
Yeah.
VTubers are people, so yes. But
yes. Cartoon are
how far are we?
Humans.
How far are we like pushing? Is that just all it means?
No, it's just like for our fight to be taken seriously, our existence to be taken seriously. Like it's half a meme, half true. Because like so many people look down on me because I'm a cartoon. But I've got feelings.
Right. You know what? For today I will support cartoon rights.
What do you mean for today?
But I'll have to read up on the history of cartoons and their struggle for
All right, yeah, I'm working on the Wikipedia page right now.
Yeah.
I'll send it to
exactly.
you when it's finished. And yeah,
I
plan on making
send me the VTuber cartoon. Send me the cartoon manifesto.
Okay.
So that I can be radicalized.
Were you kind of weirded out when like a VTuber wanted to interview you?
No, I think well, for like a minute I was like, oh, it's one of those. I'm only like slightly. I'm slightly becoming more familiar with that world now. Like I don't really like watch a lot of that content.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't really watch much YouTube lately, because I'm too busy like working. But yeah. At first I was like, oh, interesting. But like that's about it's maybe like 5 seconds of huh, interesting. That's new for me. Like I haven't done one of these before, But things are always changing on YouTube anyway. So like whatever. There are YouTubers who are fully AI, like just straight up like not even real people, like actually just animated.
That's kind of scary. I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, it's a little terrifying, but like By the way, if the AIs can come for my job, your job is fucked. Whoever's listening to this, like you're done. Like if an AI can just do like make content consistently. Sorry, man. They're building a drone to stock the shelves. They're building chef robots. Like it's over from here on out if that's the case.
It's so depressing.
Really sad.
Philip DeFranco actually said
perfect note. It's the perfect note to end a conversation with me on. Just genuine sadness and a fear of the future.
Honestly, that's me 24/7, so that works. So it's okay.
Yeah.
It's having anxiety. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me and having an interview, and I appreciate you not judging me for being a cartoon. Okay. Or at least acting on your judgment.
No worries.
That was very cool.
Yeah, no worries. I thanks for inviting me. I don't normally do this kind of thing, so hopefully this wasn't just a whole bunch of like incoherent rambling.
No, it was amazing.
I do better on script. But
no, like it. Yeah,
thanks for. I appreciate it.
It was great, and I know that almost everyone who's watching probably knows about like your YouTube content. But do you kind of want to talk a bit about like the podcast that you've been doing and stuff?
Yeah, sure. Oh man, this is always so unnatural. Plugging.
You don't have like a whole
things.
script?
No, because I never do this. I never like do live stuff like this or like interviews. But I have obviously a YouTube channel that I upload when I feel like it, which hasn't been consistent lately, but it will be eventually one day when I whip myself up into shape. But I have two podcasts. One is a PlayStation-centric kind of industry podcast I do with Colin Moriarty and Dustin Furman. This is like it's Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast. It's all about PlayStation. It's kind of fun. We go into the history. We take user-submitted questions.
Yeah, that's
follow
super
the
cool.
news. Follow the studios moving around. It's a niche interest, but I think it's fun. It's like actually that podcast is part of like I think the thing that the umbrella that we're under has like 10,000 patrons or something. It's like the biggest nerd culture, video game oriented podcast that is funded on Patreon, which is pretty cool. So that's a thing that I do. And I also do the Snark Tank with my roommate Sweeney and my friend Some Black Guy. And that's more conversational, more shoot the shit, more comedy oriented. And you can find that by literally just Googling those words.
Cool.
Okay. They'll come up immediately.
That's fucking awesome. But yeah, thanks so much for doing this. This has been super cool, and hopefully we can chat again sometime. Maybe
sure.
You can make a VTube model, and then we'll be on the equal playing field. That would be cool.
Yeah, I'll become a VTuber very soon when I get a new high def camera, and then it becomes really clear how much I've damaged my skin from all the hot showers that I've taken.
Yep.
Then I'll make myself a model.
And then I get to say I told you so, which is like the best moment anyone's ever had.
Exactly.
Okay, well, have a good rest of your day, Chris. And thanks for coming.
All right. Anytime. Thank you. You too.
Yeah.